Hello, everybody. This is Biman Gandhi, and I have brought yet another topic for your consideration. Let us talk about procrastination, or we know as bahanebaji in Hindi. Procrastination or bahanebaji is probably one of the worst diseases that we have in our lives. Procrastination probably does not cost you a life, but certainly it has a very long, winding, bad impact both on our personal as well as professional growth. Delaying things until we hit the limit or not doing things and finding reasons for not doing things is something that we know as procrastination. When it comes to doing things, obviously we all need bit of an internal or external motivation to do things. So probably this lack of motivation or demotivation, in other words, is in the root cause of this disease called procrastination. So let's look at what are those areas of demotivation, or how do we go about that. One of the things that demotivates us is probably the humongous nature of challenge that we have in front of us, or sometimes the overwhelming size of the target that we have set for ourselves. And just because of the sheer size of the challenge or the target we have in front of us, probably it gets us immediately demotivated, and we start finding reasons or excuses for not doing things. The another reason could be, which is also a very dangerous reason, probably it's our complacency. It's all about the comfort zone that we are sitting in. We like it wherever we are, isn't it? So the motivation that I talked about earlier, the internal motivation or external motivation probably is not strong enough to really kick you in the butt and unseat you from the comfort zone where you are sitting. So, how do we go about this? Let's look at that. If you are facing an uphill task or a massive challenge which is in front of you, chances are that we have a tendency to surrender to this massive nature of the task or challenge that we have in front of us. And not just the surrender, but we also start finding the reasons for not doing or progressing in order to address that challenge or the problem. Sometimes we come out with a reason that it's not worth it, or sometimes we say, oh, it's very, very, very difficult and it's time consuming. I have other important things to do in my life, and that's why I will not do it these at right time. Sometimes we also say, I don't have enough skills, experience to do it or to go about it, and that's why probably we start delaying things. So let me explain you how to go about this massive nature of the challenge that you are facing. The first thing that you need to do is to really break them into smaller chunks. And after dividing them into smaller chunks, try to figure out what's easy and what's really difficult. The things that are easy and doable by all by yourself, or maybe with some external support, I don't think I need to tell you anything about those easier stuff. But for the difficult things, you should start asking questions why it seems difficult to you. What is it that is really causing a difficulty to you? Maybe it is a lack of knowledge. Maybe sometimes you are not having enough experience backing you of doing the same kind of thing in past, or sometimes it is a skill that probably is lacking. So then make that as a target. In other words, how am I going to acquire this knowledge should be your target, rather than addressing the difficult nature of the or difficult piece of that challenge. How am I going to learn the skills that I don't have to complete this particular task, or how am I going to get external help in order to complete this task? Once you do that, something beautiful happens, and that is nothing but in the process of addressing the difficult nature of the task that you had on your head, you end up learning something new. Either you acquire a new knowledge or you gain something on some or the other skills. So once you start doing this and then again come back to address the challenge with the new vigor, the new version of you, probably it makes it very, very easy. So that's how you can actually address the massive challenge that you may have in front of you. The next thing is about the comfort zone, which is one of the most dangerous reasons for us to procrastinate. Uh, One of the techniques that I have found working in addressing the comfort zone is reverse thinking. It might be a slightly newer terminology for many of you, but reverse thinking is nothing but it is also termed as an opposite thinking. It is simple technique to convert a positive statement into a negative statement. When you change the context, the whole meaning of course gets changed, and that is the beauty of this reverse thinking. So let me give you an example of what is reverse thinking. So let's look at the positive statement or positive side of the things first. So let's say in my business, having 10 large customers in 2 years time probably is going to yield 5 times more revenue in my business. Now, this is definitely a positive statement and should be a motivation enough to pump me up and start taking actions around it. But it doesn't work, isn't it? In many cases, I'm sure many of you would be able to relate that it really does not work, even if I have this very nice looking positive statement in front of us. Instead, what we start doing is that we start finding reasons or excuses. We probably start saying things like, oh, there is enough competition out there in the world and it makes my job very, very difficult. Or sometimes we say, I alone cannot do it because I do not have sufficient resources or adequate infrastructure in my office or in my business that will really help me to get those 10 customers and serve those 10 customers. Now, these are excuses. What are you doing about it? Nothing. And then you continue to live the way you are. And that is what we call as comfort zone. Let's look at how can we convert these into a negative context using this reverse technique. This into a negative statement means, what if I start thinking like, if I don't have 10 large customers in next 2 years time in my business, probably I or my business will start struggling, or probably it is going to be a survival question for me. This is a scary thought, isn't it? If it is a scary thought, sometimes this fear that you have at the back of your mind acts as a motivation for you to take the action. And then suddenly you will start looking at ways and means how do you go about it. Probably the same team that you had complained about that you did not have the skillful resources or adequate infrastructure, you will start taking actions around that. So again, like we discussed in the previous section, you move your target from what the real challenge is to what you actually need to do now. And once you start doing that, you will start seeing that there are some positive things which are happening both personally as well as in your profession, and that makes you move. Getting over the procrastination is all about moving on. It's never about what you have, it's always about what are you doing with what you have. Thank you very much for listening.